Please identify yourself and who you represent for the record, please. And you may proceed after that.
My name is Sarah Everett. I'm the Policy Director for the ACLU of Arkansas, and I'm going to try to talk quickly because we are once again not making it possible to hear from our constituents on these issues. Laws are meant to be instructive and their meaning clear to the average citizen. This amendment does nothing to clarify the law or its enforceability. This bill would require current businesses that don't allow minors into their drag performances to move their businesses in order to be able to have those performances. I think it's important to point out that an adult-oriented business cannot be located within 1,000 feet of any public park, any recreational area, any walking trail, any residence, any church, any playground, and there is nothing in this bill I can see that would limit the definition of drag performances to exclude private homes, for example. Every other adult-oriented business listed here is specifically a business, a venue, a shop. There's nothing in this definition of drag performance that limits it to a business like that. A law violates the Constitution when an average citizen cannot determine who is regulated or what conduct is prohibited. The absurdity of this bill is that even people making the law can't tell us when it applies. The senators who voted for this bill couldn't even agree on what it meant. It's not enough to say that it's not the purpose of the bill or that the courts will sort it out. Your constituents expect you to pass bills that comply with the Constitution, not put our rights in jeopardy, not use our tax dollars to discover that what we have told you is true. It's unconstitutional. But that is the goal, ultimately, of this bill, to curb the free speech and expression of the LGBTQ community and their allies. Fear is running this legislature and has been for a long time, and it's time to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, also speaking against it is Ms. Sinclair. Please identify yourself for the record and who you represent, and you may proceed.
My name is Athena Sinclair, also known as MD Hunter, and I'm just representing myself and other drag venues in the state of Arkansas. I'm actually the drag queen that spoke against this bill when it was in Senate committee, and I'm just really disappointed by this bill. She said that they aren't trying to stop theaters from having drag and performances and things like that. However, that is what drag actually is. This bill is just saying a hateful rhetoric of what drag actually is because these people do not understand what we do. What we do is not sexual. When I dress up in drag, I'm doing it because it is simply art. I started to go to school at ASUBB and went to a performance of Rocky Horror Picture Show and decided that I loved what they were doing and that they were expressing themselves in any way that they felt like they needed to be their authentic self, and that's why I started doing drag. She also said that this wasn't going to affect our current venues, and I can tell you right now, every single one of our current venues that does drag, which is less than about 6, is terrified of this bill because it will affect them. They will have to move their venues or stop having drag, and this bill is just disgusting because this is a huge part of our entertainment industry and our LGBT community. I can tell you there is 100% no drag shows in Representative Bentley's district. So I don't see why any of her constituents would be worried about this because it's not happening in her district. I feel like this bill is just happening because she said it's happening in Texas. None of these things are happening in Texas in public areas where kids can see it. These are all places that adults are already at. So there's no drag queen that's going to be sexualizing any child or wanting to be sexual around a child because we're just trying to represent those children who are different from yourselves. Those children who grow up already being bullied, already being disappointing their parents because they don't understand what being gay is or being what the LGBT community is. That's what drag does for these kids. It lets them know that there's people out there like them. There's people out there that want to represent them, that they can say, oh, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. Because Representative Bitley and Stubblefield actually called trans people and drag entertainers an abomination. So I can't say that she's saying that this is not attacking a particular community when she specifically said that it was. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excuse me. Would you be willing to take a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Representative Ray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for your testimony. I understand we live in a pluralistic society and people have different lifestyles, and mine may be different from yours and yours may be different from mine, and that's part of America. I guess my question is specifically with regard to these types of performances. Why is it so necessary that they take place in front of children?
It's not necessary. If you saw the testimony when I was here for Senate, I was completely dressed in a gown that you could barely see any of my skin. All you could see was my face. So when people usually perform in front of children, they're dressed extremely appropriate, and it's only happening so that those kids can come and see somebody that is like them. There's nobody out there that's going to bring their kids out there just because, oh, I just want to go to a drag show, so I'm going to bring my kid. Usually they bring their kids because their kids are different. Their kids are unique, and their kids are not seeing representation of themselves in anywhere else in their community. That's why they bring them to a drag show, so that they can see that there's people like them out there.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, and also speaking against it is Judson Scanton? Close, okay. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Judson Scanlon, and before I begin, I would actually like to give a chance to the parents who are in the room. I know there are some young children here, and I'm about to use some language and some scientific terms that they may find questionable. So if you want to, I just want to give you the option. Just a couple of minutes, please. Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Okay, may I tell you also, there's 8 minutes left right now.
I understand.
All right.
I'm not going to take very long at this at all.
All right, go ahead.
I want to be very clear about some very scientific things that happen. I am transgender. That means that my internal self does not identify with my external self. And at times, in order for me to feel comfortable, I actually take steps to match the internal and the external. When I choose to do that, and when I feel like that is necessary for my own well-being, there are times that I choose to use an element that I purchase. And this element is used in order to help me be real with myself. Now, wearing a false penis is actually something that is done for years. And it is actually a medical necessity in order to transition. And people don't understand that. So this question that I have is this. If I am actually in public doing what we refer to as packing in the community, does that make me susceptible to arrest if I hug my partner and a young child sees me? Because according to the language in this bill, an arbitrary decision can be made outside of my knowledge in order to make me a criminal for simply taking that action. I'd just like you to be aware of this. This bill chooses to go to arbitrary as opposed to defined, And we have fought that for years in the gay and lesbian community. Until 1970, the way I'm appearing in front of you would have been illegal in many locations across this country. The Stonewall riots were created because people fought back against being arrested for wearing articles of clothing associated with the opposite gender. That's what this bill is about. We are proud. Our pride parades allow us to exhibit that pride. We are humans who actually feel joy, and we want others to understand that. You do not have to attend a pride parade. And Representative Bentley, I am thrilled that you found yourself at one to actually experience our community. This bill is harmful to many people for many reasons. It's harmful to me, and it's harmful to my children who get to hear that I am the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Are there any
testimony.
questions?
Well, I see no questions. I appreciate your testimony. All right, we have a little over 5 minutes left. Gary Sullivan, if you'll identify yourself for the record and state your name, you may proceed.
I'm Gary Sullivan. I'm the legal director at the ACLU of Arkansas, and I'm also here on my own behalf. I want to congratulate Senator Stubblefield and Representative Bentley, but before I tell you why, I'm going to tell you a very short story since we're running out of time. Not too far from Little Rock, there was this young boy who realized he was an artist and he wanted to be a performer. And he was a little stage shy, but he finally got over that. And once he got on the stage, he realized that that's where he wanted to be and that's what he wanted to do for life. And he started out wearing fairly conservative clothing, but soon he advanced to more less conservative clothing. He certainly started exaggerating things. From the get-go, he wore eye makeup. He soon started teasing his hair. Over time, he teased that hair higher. Eventually started dyeing the hair. He wore for performances loose-fitting outfits at first. They were brightly colored. Some of them had plunging necklines all the way down to his navel, very revealing. Soon he started shaking his legs and gyrating his hips. Young people talked about this, and more young people started coming to his performances, and the parents were furious. The parents wanted to outlaw him. The parents got him arrested at least one time for lascivious conduct and lewd behavior. He wasn't swayed by that. He started wearing tighter clothing, more revealing clothing. And then, boy, did he start exaggerating things. He got gold rings on his fingers and thick gold necklaces, big diamonds on his fingers. And the more he exaggerated himself, the more he became known and people started coming. And there was no doubt that his performances were for the prurient interest of the audience, because some people started taking off their underwear and throwing it up on the stage. And this went on and it grew and it grew. It was exaggerated, it was prurient, it was very sexual. And the parents got madder and madder. But boy, they did not succeed. They tried so hard, but they couldn't do it. So my congratulations to Senator Stubblefield and Representative Bentley is, you've finally done what parents couldn't do 60 years ago. You found a way to outlaw Elvis Presley. Now, unfortunately, Elvis Presley can't perform in Arkansas now, but Dolly Parton might, Elton John might, and this bill would prevent that. Thank you. I'll accept any questions.
I see no questions. Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Courtney Ferguson. I know I butchered it, so correct me when you get up here. Please identify yourself and who you represent, and you may proceed.
Does my introduction cut into time?
You have 2 minutes and 39 seconds.
Well, I've tried to prepare a short speech. I'm Courtney Frierson, a native Arkansan, a social worker, and a certified sex therapist. I respectfully ask that you vote no on SB43. I do care deeply about drag performers and their artistic expression, and my deepest concerns are the infringement on the rights to assemble, the rights of free speech, and the impact this will have on enforcement. I don't know how to shorten this. The 3-article rule mentioned earlier were based on masquerading laws based in the 1845s, which made it a crime to have one's face painted, discolored, covered, or concealed, or be otherwise disguised while in a road or public highway. This law's intended purpose was to prevent rural white farmers from darkening their faces to be perceived as Native American to avoid taxation. After 6 decades of marginalization and violence sanctioned by the state and forced by the police, a group of black and brown, transgender, gay, queer, and drag performing people fought back in June of 1969 at the Stonewall Inn in New York City. The community resisted arrest, fought the police, started a riot, and sparked a revolution of resistance. The first Pride was a riot. I do not say this to encourage violence. I'm reminding you of the history to highlight that this drag bill is an old story. We're tired. We've heard this one before, and we've already resisted. While some of you might opine that the 1950s were the good old days that you'd like to go back to, this bill is a regurgitation of hateful and oppressive past. SB43 represents outdated gender policing and infringement on the freedoms of assembly and free speech, and will and is already harming LGBTQ people and drag performers. It will be costly to the state. This bill is masquerading as protection of children when it is a thinly veiled attempt to police the gender of others. If enforced and passed, the state will be challenged in court, as this bill is unconstitutional. For a party that believes in small government and fiscal responsibility, it sure is an expensive and harmful way to waste precious taxpayer money. I urge you to vote no on SB 43.
Okay, we have 34 seconds left, and we have Blake Tierney. I apologize for the short period of time, but I'll be slow in starting the clock, okay?
Thank you. My name is Blake Tierney. I am here representing myself. I am a queer gay man, a Christian, and I have years of experience in the nonprofit field in child welfare, child mental health, and child social services. Section 305 of the code that is being amended with this bill allows any citizen to take legal action against individuals or businesses. Just because we say that it is up to the courts to decide, the damages will already have been done through finances, reputation, and time of these individuals and businesses who get to determine what prurient interest means, as we have heard from every individual who has spoken against this bill and for this bill even. I have been called out at a public pool for kissing my partner, who was a woman at the time, before I came out, because it was to protect the children. I have seen through my years of experience in child services, women, many of you are very familiar with breastfeeding, it has been called shameful. People are harassed for that, all to protect children from sexually obscene things.
Hey, Blake, your time is up. We'll give you 30 seconds to wind this up, okay?
I really appreciate that. So thank you for listening to me, but I want to close out and say that this is targeting LGBTQ people. And there's lots of roots in Christianity about this that you are appealing to, but I want to point out that first, Jesus rebuked the Pharisees for their strict adherence to Deuteronomic law that it marginalized people. And furthermore, Galatians 3, Paul said, "Before the coming of this faith, we were held in custody under the law, locked up until the faith that was to come would be revealed. So the law was our guardian until Christ came that we might be justified by faith. Now that this faith has come, we are no longer under a guardian. So in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. For all of you who are baptized into Christ have clothed you with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female. For you are all one in Christ Jesus. I urge you, SB 43 is legally spurious, it is economically careless, it is morally bankrupt, and it is deeply unchristian. Please oppose this bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Now speaking for the bill,